Hello, welcome to First Tuesdays. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful sunny day, at least in Olympia. It should be sunny soon. This is Jennifer Fenton from the Washington State Library, and I am very pleased to see so many people here for our presentation today. In case you're new to Illuminate, just a couple things. If you can hear us, then you're already well on your way to being successful with this software. If you're having difficulty hearing, there is a, yes, I was going to say my pointer disappeared, but Jeremy's pointing to the audio setup wizard there that you can run. So if you start to lose sound, you could go to the audio setup wizard. We also have a couple technicians here today to help Jeremy and Joe, so you can let us know and we will try to assist. If you want to use the microphone, we ask as a courtesy that you raise your hand, and then in order to activate your microphone, you click on Talk, and then your microphone's activated. And then when you're done speaking, just go ahead and click it one more time to turn it off. So you push it once, it lights up and is on, and then you turn it off with one click. So that is how your microphone is able to be activated. And then we have chat down in the bottom corner where you can send us messages. Many of you have already figured that out. You just go ahead and type your message and hit enter, and it will send a note to the entire room if you are there in the main room. So, are there any questions about how this works? Great. Well, now I'd like to introduce Carolyn Peterson, who will be talking in a few minutes and introducing our speaker. And then I'm Jennifer, and we are here to facilitate this session. And our tech support team, Joe and Jeremy. They are important people to know, so you can send them a chat message, or you can email them or call them if you need assistance. And this is brought to you by the Washington State Library and with our grant funding from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And now we'd like to find out of the 18 people in the room where you guys are from. And so if you would please go ahead and type in chat your library and what city, state you are from, and that will help us. So we'll take a minute to go ahead and do that. Thank you. Yay, someone's joining us all the way from Georgia. Welcome. A couple of people, it looks like, from Georgia. And a lot of people from locally right here in Olympia and the area, and also from all over the state, and Anacortes, Longview. So welcome. And now I'm going to turn this over to Carolyn to introduce our presenter. And go ahead and keep typing if you haven't already filled in the attendance.
Well, welcome. I'd like to add my welcome to Jennifer's. And we got this program from a strong recommendation. This program was presented at Whale last year, and one of our staff members attended and came back and then did a presentation for us and just highly recommended this presentation. She said she learned lots and it gave her just really information she needed, and so I thought, aha, this is something that we should share more broadly yet. So I went back and contacted Ken, which is not as easy as it seems because Ken has a propensity to go off to remote places like Guam. And so we know he knows his stuff because he's been out and about. So we, having several recommendations, I'm looking forward to hearing your program. Ken, thanks for the time you took to refresh your program and to share it with all of those who are attending. Thank you very much. I'll let you talk now.
Thank you, Carolyn. Welcome. It was heartwarming to see the lady from Anne Arundel, Maryland, because I'm from Virginia, so it was kind of nice to see somebody from close to home. But I was in Seattle last week, so I know what it was like on that side too, and it was very pretty. I am Ken Bowden. I'm an adjudications officer with Citizenship and Immigration. I'm working in the Spokane field office, and we're going to take a little walk this morning through immigration and kind of let everybody know what the process is from a person entering the country to becoming a citizen. It's not quite as quick and easy as sometimes the newspapers make it seem. There's a lot in the news about immigration these days, especially with the deferred action, and I can cover that towards the end if anybody's interested. And so when the newspaper says that somebody is something's going to happen and now they're going to be a citizen, it's not quite that easy. It's not that fast either. And so as you'll see, that it takes a little bit to become a citizen. So going to the first slide, and see if I can do this right. We used to be the INS. That was kind of a scary word to a lot of people, and sometimes it still pops up. But now we are under Department of Homeland Security since right after 9/11, and when they folded all these security issues into the Department of Homeland Security, we became part of them when we came out of the Department of Justice. We are a benefits organization. We administer benefits like administer adjustment of status or citizenship, and we're not enforcement. That is ICE's purview. They are part of the Department of Homeland Security, but they are not part of Citizenship and Immigration, and that's who we are. We administer benefits. This is where we are. Our office, the Spokane office, is in Spokane, Washington. We're on the corner of Monroe and Riverside, down in the middle of town. And we have the building that we're in is a federal building, and we have the IRS, we have the Marshal Service, and the federal judges are in our building for those that might want to come into the area. This is what our building looks like, and this presentation we take around into our district, and so the people that are probably going to be using our facility, this gives them a chance to see what the building looks like. So the benefits and services that CIS administers or adjudicates, we do lawful permanent residency, which is the green card for those that are qualified. We adjudicate petitions for relatives. We also work orphan petitions and special programs, and those programs, our office, we don't do that much with those. Orphan petitions are handled at the Benefits Center, and another office handles that. And then,
Ken, may I ask a question? And I guess
yes,
the question would be, how would you like us to ask questions? And then, do you want us to chat? Do you type them in the chat? Would you like us to raise our hands? Or do you want us to save them till the very end? My apologies for not asking this sooner.
Oh, no, thanks. And this is kind of a different venue for me, too, so no problems. If anybody has a question at any time, feel free to ask. And I guess there was the instructions before?
Yes, what I can do is monitor the chat, and I will watch the chat and say, you know, oh, Ken, you have a question if that works for you. So you can go forward, and I will just do that. And my question, I have one. What's an orphan petition?
Orphan petitions are those people who wish to adopt, either adopting an orphan or you want to adopt. Well, the orphan petition is strictly for orphans. A lot of times people go to other countries, they live for a while, and they find out about a child that is parentless, and they wish to adopt them, and so then they have to go through the process of adopting this orphan. Primarily it's to ensure that there isn't another family member available who wishes to keep the child, and so then they will apply for the orphan petition, and then if it's approved, then they can go forward with the adoption. And I skipped from orphans to special programs because those two programs are handled mostly at service centers, and that's not something that's done in our office. So If somebody wanted to know about orphan petitions, actually the easiest way to find out about it is go to our website, and the address will be up later on in the program, or come into our office and we would talk to you and we would let you know as much as we know about it. Mostly we would be giving you information, and then you would take that and fill out the application or petition, send it off, and wait for the Service Center to take care of your issue. So that works. People can call, they can put in the chat, and then you can manage that for me. The other two, naturalization, work authorizations, those are benefits that we do administer in our office, and we'll talk a little bit more about those. So the first thing that happens is a person comes to the United States and they've been born outside of the U.S. And if they come to the U.S., they're looking, if they want to stay here, they need to become a permanent resident so they can stay in the U.S., travel back and forth between the United States and any other country, and so that they can work in the United States. So the way they do that is they apply for a visa. If they're outside the United States, they apply through the Department of State, through one of the consulates or embassies, or if they're inside the United States, they apply for a visa through an adjustment of status application. So the visa categories, there's two types. There's immigrant visas. Those are people who are coming here to live and stay. Those can be family-based or employment-based. I guess the biggest question that we get a lot of times is people come into the window, and first thing they want to do is they come to the United States and they just want to work. And they're here on holiday and they want to stay and work. And they say, how can I do that? Unfortunately, our answer to them is you can't. You just can't come and visit and decide you want to stay and work. This is not what the way the law works. Or maybe they want to stay and live. And according to the law, you can't do that either. You can come and visit, but when your visa is up, your visitor's visa or whatever you're here on, whenever that's up, you're required to leave the United States. So there's two ways that you can get a visa. One is through a family-based, or the other is through employment-based. Family-based would be through a spouse or a child, a parent, or a brother or a sister, depending on what the person who's living in the United States, what their status is. Or you can do it through employment-based. I'm not going to talk a lot about employment-based because it's a little bit more complicated, and there really aren't that many. The people who want to come here under employment-based visas usually know how to do that, or they figure out that I want to do this through a job, so they come and ask us specifically how to do that, and we tell them. There are non-immigrant visas, which are the temporary visas that I spoke of. You're here as a tourist or as a student. Diplomats those are non-immigrant visas. And professional athletes and performers, and usually they come under some sort of a work visa. Sometimes it's for a temporary, very specific time to do it. Like a golfer might come to the U.S. for a tournament. He gets a visa for the time frame of the tournament, and then he leaves sometime after that. So those are the two basic types. The two basic ways to immigrate we spoke of. You come through a family relationship or through an employer. The family relationship is the easiest way. And as you see on the slide, the two main categories is if you're a permanent resident or if you're a U.S. citizen, then you can petition for another. If you are a U.S. citizen, you can petition for a spouse, your children under 21, your parents, your children over 21, and any married brothers and sisters. If you're a U.S. citizen and you're petitioning for your spouse, your children under 21, or your parents, those people in those categories are considered immediate relatives. That means that as soon as their petition is approved, they can immediately immigrate, all things being proper. If you're a child over 21, a married child, or a brother or sister, you fall into a preference category, as do the permanent residence relatives. A permanent resident can petition for a spouse, a child under 21, or unmarried children under 21. All of those categories of relatives are in a preference category, or a preference, and that means that once their petition is approved, they get what's called a priority date, and that's their number in line, and they have to wait a certain period of time, and we will talk about that later. The other way is through an employer relationship, and basically a person, you find an employer who wishes to hire you, they apply for the visa, you come and you're employed, and then they file a petition for you, and if it is approved, it acts just like a family petition, and you do the normal adjustment applications, and then you can become a permanent resident that way. It's lengthy. The employer has to do a lot of things. It takes a lot of time. You have to find somebody that's willing to do that for you. It's just a lengthy process, and that's why we don't spend a lot of time talking about it here. But it's interesting, and it is a way for people to immigrate.
Okay.
There is.
I have a question
I'm sorry.
here, and it
Okay.
says, Anna asks, does a U.S. citizen have a better chance than a permanent resident for petitions for family?
I would say that they're all equal. If a permanent resident and a citizen both submit a petition, they'll both get the same consideration. But once the petition from the citizen's approved, then the beneficiary will be immediately able to act on that approval. If the permanent resident is approved, they're probably going to have to wait in most cases. But they get the same consideration. We don't say, well, this is a citizen, we're going to take that one over the petition over the permanent resident. They get equal consideration.
Okay, I have another question, which I'm scrolling back up here. It keeps going as the chat. Yeah, just a minute. Sorry. These keep. All right, and then this one, it says, does one relationship, is there one relationship that's better in the ones listed?
One relationship that's...
In other words, in the ones
well,
you list.
Yes. The U.S. citizens, like I said before, a U.S. citizen, when they petition for somebody, if they petition for a spouse, a child under 21, or a parent, once that petition is approved, they can come to the U.S. right now. If they happen to be in the United States, they can file their application for adjustment right now. And
okay,
as soon as that all gets done, they get a green card.
Okay, I didn't say the question correctly. Now I have it. It's does one family relationship, in other words, if you're a spouse, do you get ahead of somebody like a married brother or sister?
Yes. Well, you do after the petition has been approved, then you do get consideration, because the idea is to get the families together, maintain family unity. So they want to get the spouses back together again. They're going to want to get a child and the parent, the U.S. citizen parent and the child back together again as soon as possible. But for married brothers and sisters, the need is not quite so great, so in those cases they end up waiting. And I'm going to explain the visa process in a couple other slides, and you'll see how it works.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so family allocations. This is how it works. The Department of State regulates how many people can come into the United States every year. There are some categories that don't fall into that number. One of them is the immediate relatives of United States citizens. Like I said before, United States citizens, spouses, parents, and unmarried children under 21 are not subject to the visa limitations. As soon as their petition is approved, they can apply for residency. That means they can apply to get their green card right now. And that doesn't have anything to do with, it doesn't impact the visa allocation quotas, because like I said, 250,000 is really not all that many when you think of how many people are trying to immigrate. So people who have to wait. If you're the unmarried son and daughter of a citizen, you have to wait. It's unmarried son or daughter over 21. I'm sorry. The spouses and unmarried children under 21 of permanent residents. The categories 2A and 2B are relatives of permanent residents. So the spouse of a permanent resident and the unmarried child of a permanent resident, they're in a preference category. They have to wait. Unmarried sons and daughters of permanent residents over 21, they have to wait. Married sons and daughters of citizens and brothers and sisters of citizens, they all fall into the preference category, so they have to wait for their priority date to come available. And I hope we're talking about employment-based. And very quickly, the employment-based, they have visa allocations also, and this is what they are. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, but you can see that they fall in the same ones. There's first, second, and third, fourth, and fifth preferences, and so they take the first preference first, and then the rest, they all follow in suit.
Okay, I have another question here.
All right.
When you say wait, what is the typical wait time?
That's a very good question, and we're going to cover that pretty quick, I hope. Let me go to the next slide. I think I can answer the question. Okay, here's some of the waiting time answer for you. Once a visa is approved, it gets a priority date. The priority date is the date that we get that petition in our hands at the Service Center. As soon as somebody picks it up out of the mail, they open the mail and they have that petition in their hands, then they date stamp it. That's the priority date. So they get the very earliest date possible. There's other dates on those forms, and I'm going to show you one later on in the presentation. You'll see a receipt date and some other dates. The priority date is always going to be the very earliest date. And that's just like going to, for a guy, you go to the barbershop, you grab a number, and you wait until your number is called. That's what you have to do with these priority dates. The Department of State regulates how many people can come into the United States. So they publish a visa bulletin. You can just Google visa bulletin and you can see what it looks like. And it's published or it's put out every month. They put out a new one to show the difference in who's been the numbers that have immigrated and what the availability is. It'll show the year and the month of the petition that they're working on by country and preference category. So when you have a petition and you know what country you're from, and so you go to the visa bulletin and you look for that country, and for your category, you know what that'll say on there, what your category is, and you see what your wait time is. And I already talked about the number of visas per year are limited. So let's see if we can get to the. Okay, this is a copy of the approval notice. This is what the approval notice looks like. And you will see, and I don't know if I'm showing anything. This is a receipt number. Do you see the pointer on the screen, Carolyn?
You have to click, and then you can drag around.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Because the answer is no, we don't.
Okay.
Are you using the finger pointer?
There. I can see something now.
That one's mine. I'm just using it as an example.
I'm looking for it.
Jeremy, go down
on
to
the
priority
left side
date.
here.
Yeah.
On the left side, the second button down.
Okay, I
should
get
be the laser pointer, and you can click and hold that to change it to the finger, like I have, or you can use the laser or whatever you're looking for.
Okay, can you see the finger now?
No, again, you have to click in the window.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. This is the receipt number, and that's just the number that they assign when your petition gets to the Service Center. Here's the receipt date. I don't know what date that is and compared to all the rest of the dates, but here's the priority date, and that was the date that we actually got this petition in our hands. And so then over here we see that this petition was approved, and it was a husband or a wife of a permanent resident. So that's a preference category. So priority date is very important. So we'll go to the next slide. And Department of State's visa bulletin. This one is for May. And you see down here that the bulletin summarizes the availability, and it'll give you all the rest of the information that has to. Most of that stuff is pretty much the same every month, except they do change the month that they're working. So this is what the bulletin looks like. And this is the section that tells you about the limitations. I thought it was, well, whatever I thought it was, but the minimum is 226,000, and then it tells you about employment basis 140,000. But anyway, this portion of the bulletin tells you what the limits are. So it tells you how many people can come into the United States in a year.
Okay, I have a question, and Irene asked, is the LIN-1 part of the receipt number?
Yes, it is. The LIN means that it came from the Lincoln, Nebraska, the Nebraska Service Center. That the first three letters tells you where it came from in the United States. WAC is a Western Service Center, or it's a Texas Service Center. If there's, I forget what Vermont is, but it starts with a V. But that part of the number tells you what service center is working that application or that petition. And then the rest of it is the number. So if you were to try and if you wanted to research the number, you would have to use the whole thing.
I also had a question. Is this only available online, or is it available in paper? The visa bulletin.
How do you mean on paper?
Do they still print it on paper? Is it only an online document?
It's only online.
Okay, so that means that people are going to be coming in and asking our librarians to help them find this.
They could, yes. A very good point. They could be doing that. A lot of people don't have computers, and so if they wanted to look it up, well, if they wanted to look it up, they still would have to go to the computer, go to the visa bulletin, and look at it there. They don't, as far as I know, they don't publish it anywhere. When we get it in an email, so we don't even get it on paper. They say, here it is in an email, or go to the visa bulletin and get it from there. And this is the portion that everybody is concerned about, those people with priority dates, is the priority date chart. So as you see, we got the family-sponsored. This is a family-sponsored chart. The four countries, Mexico, the Philippines, Mexico, India, and China, these countries have their own priority dates because they are such a heavily, they have such a heavy demand on the system. They have so many people trying to immigrate from these countries that they have to give them their own dates, and that's how they control the flow of people from those countries. Everybody else ends up here under all chargeability areas, and for the most part, the dates are usually a little bit earlier in the all chargeability areas. To give you an example of how the difference, how long the wait can be for the Philippines, you see down here that for a brother or a sister of a Philippine national who's become a U.S. citizen, they are now working, or they were in May, working those petitions with a priority date of 22 January of '89. So that means that those people with a petition filed before 22 January of '89 are now being worked. And that's how long the wait is for brothers and sisters from the Philippines. If you did one today, you can do the math and figure out how long your wait is going to be. It's going to be a very long one. That's for the brother and sister. I don't see what would, if you're the brother and sister, you couldn't change your status within your family, so that's the way it's going to be. But that gives you an example of how long the wait is. And that's how the visa works. Those people, their immediate relatives, are trying to get them together now, so there is no wait. And then they try to get the various family members. The unmarried children, they come a little bit faster than the married children, and they come a little bit faster than the brothers and sisters. And then these are for the 2A and B. Those are for Filipinos living in the United States with a green card trying to get their family members here. So it's a little bit quicker, but they still have a bit of a wait for if you're trying to get your spouse over here. So the adjustment of status is the next thing that happens. You get your petition approved. Now adjustment of status means I want my green card. For most people, that's what it is it's a green card application. And this is what this is. The cases are governed under 245 of the Immigration Nationality Act. That's not all that important. That's just a set of laws that tells us how to adjudicate or how to administer the regulation or to approve the petition or the application. Those people that want to become a permanent resident, they have to make an application. We don't go looking for anybody, and we don't know who's out there who wants to do it anyway. They have to show that they made a lawful entry. That means that they were admitted or paroled into the United States. When admitted means they came to the United States, they went to the border, they showed their passport, they had a reason for being here, they got stamped with a date, and it said, welcome to the United States. Or they got paroled in, they had some other situation, and the Customs and Border Protections, they just paroled them into the United States. To become a permanent permanent resident, you must be admissible. means that any prior violations, any crimes, prior violations, crimes, or health issues have been taken care of, or you do not have any. Prior violations would be something like somebody that's been convicted of murder. They are inadmissible. They cannot come to the United States. People with drug-related crimes, most of them cannot come to the United States. Most of the health care issues is around tuberculosis, and it has to be active before a person comes to the United States. If they're coming to come here to stay, they would have been checked out by a doctor. If they're living in the United States, then they would be checked out by a doctor before their application is approved. So we have to see the medical paperwork that says that they are that they have no inadmissibility issues with regards to health. So this is what the green card looks like. So if they apply, their petition is approved, they file their application to adjust and all the documents that go along with that, and they come in for an interview, and we say everything looks good to us. We're going to approve your application, and then this is what they get. They get a permanent resident card, or what we call an I-551. This is the old card, which isn't actually all that old, but they have issued a new one. And the new one looks like this, and it's almost green. It's kind of blue-green. And it has all the person's individual information on there, and it tells where they came, the country they were born in, and then it tells them when the card expires and how long they've been a resident. Normally, these cards are good for 10 years. If you're married to a permanent resident, or I'm sorry, if you're married to a citizen at the time of your marriage or at the time of the adjustment, you've been married less than 2 years, then your card is only good for 2 years, and that means that in 2 years you have to do some more paperwork. So one of the better things we do, the best thing we do, is naturalizing permanent residents for citizenship. These are the eligibility requirements. A person has to be 18 years old or older, and these are for naturalization. This is not for citizenship necessarily. To naturalize, you have to be 18 years old or older. You have to be a permanent resident. It means you have to have a green card. If you're married to a U.S. citizen, then you only have to be a permanent resident for 3 years, and you get it early. Everybody else has to be a permanent resident for at least 5 years when they apply. They have to be a person of good moral character. That means that they cannot be inadmissible, especially within the statutory period, which is 5 years for everybody who's not married to a U.S. citizen. You have to show knowledge of English and civics, be able to read, write, and speak English, show attachment to the Constitution, and there are some exemptions to the speaking, reading, and writing. If you are a permanent resident, I have a question?
Yes, I do. How do you demonstrate attachment to the U.S. Constitution? That's kind of an interesting way of putting it.
Yes. On the back of the last 6 questions in the application for naturalization ask, are you, do you, I can't remember the exact wording, I should have brought an application with me. Do you approve of the Constitution? Something along the lines of, are you, do you approve, or are you approving of the Constitution and form of government of the United States? Are you willing to take the oath of allegiance? Do you understand the oath of allegiance? Are you willing to take the oath of allegiance? Are you willing, if the law requires it, are you willing to bear arms on behalf of the United States? If the law requires it, are you willing to perform non-combatant duties in the armed forces? And if the law requires it, are you willing to perform duties under civilian leadership of national importance? The first one is are you ordered to, do you approve of the Constitution and form of government of the United States? If you said no on that, then there's going to be a problem.
Okay, there are lots of questions that are coming up in chat. So I'm going to read one. Anna asks, clarification, did he say that naturalization is different than citizenship? Can he make a few points about dual citizenship? And then Doris has a question, something else.
Okay, yes. Citizenship, well, let's go back to who could be a citizen without going through the naturalization process. If a person is getting, say, I am becoming a citizen today. If I have any children who are 17 years or old or younger, they become citizens when I do. So first of all, they're probably already a citizen of the country that we came from originally, and they become a citizen of the United States today without them having to do anything at all. Dual citizenship is I think in the United States it's pretty much it's recognized. They don't exactly endorse it because when you take the oath, you renounce all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, yada yada. So you're renouncing any previous allegiances. But the fact remains that you're still eligible to get a passport from that country. Most countries. There are some countries that don't allow you to continue to get their passport. I'm not real sure which ones they are because the last time I checked, it seems like more and more countries are allowing dual citizenship. Basically, in the United States, what it means is that you can't say, if we have a war, if we go to war with somebody and we institute a draft, and you're a citizen of Canada or any other country, you can't leave and say, well, I'm not going to abide by the law, I'm a citizen of this other country, because we recognize you as a citizen of the United States. So if you do desert, then you've broken the law. You can't break the law and get away with it. Like I said, a lot of countries allow it. Canada, I know, allows dual citizenship. And if you wanted to know more about the other countries, the best thing to do is just Google dual citizenship in countries that allow it, and that'll tell you. But you can. The quick answer is that yes, you can be a citizen of more than one country and be a citizen of the United States.
Okay, it kind of, I think Doris's question you may have covered. She says, do people abdicate citizenship to other countries when doing this? And I believe you have covered that.
Well, if people, you say abdicate, I'm sorry, say that again, abdicate citizenship?
Yes, when doing this. I'm assuming when they, I assume she's writing about the question ahead. On Doris,
the people
could type it if I didn't get it right.
Well, when they become a citizen of the United States, yeah, they take the oath and they say, I renounce all allegiance to any foreign government that I was previously under rule of. So you are saying that. But that's what I said. The fact remains that people still do get the passport from their previous country. Does that answer the question?
I believe so. Doris says yes.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay, so we were talking about exemptions. There are some exemptions to the reading, writing, and speaking English. If you are a permanent resident, if you've been a permanent resident for 15 years, and you are 55 years old, if you are a permanent resident for 20 years and you're 50 years old, or if you've been a permanent resident for 20 years and you are 65 years old, we do not require that you read, write, and speak English, but you still do have to take the test. In these two categories, you take the same test as everybody else, but you can take it with an interpreter, can interpret for you. So an interpreter will ask you the questions, you answer, and then if we don't understand your answer, then the interpreter will tell us what your answer is. If you apply under 6520, you get a little bit easier test. We have a study guide that we put out, and if anybody's interested in one, well, I wish I could offer it through this forum. In any event, in the study guide, there's 100 questions. They put asterisks next to 25 questions. Those are a little easier, and those are the ones that the 6520 people can expect to see on their test.
I do have another question that has come up, and Jennifer asks, I have a question about good moral character. Do minor crimes, misdemeanors, make a permanent resident ineligible?
Very good question. No, it doesn't. Misdemeanors normally don't. The crimes that we look for are those that, what we call CIMT, crimes involving moral turpitude. And to go back to that part of the presentation. If a person is inadmissible, they normally would be found to lack good moral character. So we would look to see what kind of crimes they have committed, how many of them they've committed. We see people that come in with a rap sheet that's very long, and when you go down and look at everything that's on it, a lot of them have been dismissed. Some of them are misdemeanors, and those don't count, or they're not CIMTs, so they don't count. And there is an allowance for one CIMT, and so if they do have one, they can still get a waiver for that, and that's not going to be a bar.
Okay, Kate comments that the Learning Express library database, which is one that many of us can't have access to, has a Citizenship Test practice section, and I know that we have books on that as well.
Then that's another source too, because if you go to our website, there is, and it takes a little bit of time to find it through all the links, but there is a Citizenship Test practice there too. And I don't know what yours looks like, but ours offers 4 questions and they're multiple choice, and you click on whichever one you think is the right one, and then at the bottom you click and it gives you the answers, and then you click on another button and it'll give you 4 more questions. The test that the applicants take when they come in for the interview is not multiple choice. They have to, normally, if I'm administering the test, I will ask them the question and they give me the answer. So, and I'm not so hard that if they get it wrong right off the bat that I penalize them for that. Sometimes they know part of it and they're still thinking when they're answering the question, so if they get it right before we're done, then it's counted good. But that's good to know that there's other tests out there for that people can practice with. And if they go to their local immigration office, the Citizenship and Immigration Office, we have study materials. We have the booklet that's got the 100 questions in it. It's got a CD in it that people can use to study with. And there are flashcards available also for the citizenship test. And those come in awful handy. There's also some cards available for people that wish to work on the reading and writing. They would have to check and see if the offices have those. All right, so those are the exemptions. There's one more exemption that of taking the test, and that is, well, and this one is an exemption from reading, writing, speaking English, and taking the test altogether, and that is people with medical or psychological, with a mental problem that's so severe that they can't study English to learn it to take the test. So if they get a medical waiver, they can be exempted from taking the test. This is a portion of we're pretty much done with the naturalization portion. I would go back and say that if you know anybody, because a lot of people have friends that are getting ready to take these tests or wish to become a citizen, and they're afraid of the test or they're afraid of the interview or what's going to happen to them. When they come in for the interview is largely to give them the test, because they have to pass the test to be eligible for citizenship, and to go back over the application that they submitted to make sure that it's still up to date. People do a lot of things between the time that they apply and the time that we get the application. It takes about 3 months from the time that they file for us to get the application. And in 3 months, people move, they get married, they get divorced, they have children, they change jobs. All those things happen, and all of those things are fields on the application. So when they come in for the interview, it's a good morning, how are you this morning? We do swear them in, so that we know that their information, and they know that the information they give us has got to be the truth. And then we go into the application. We ask them what their name is, where do you live. We just go through the application, check it off, make sure that everything is still good. There are some questions after the biographic sort of information where we start asking what some people might seem or think, or some of them are kind of silly. We're still asking if a person was a Nazi during the periods of 30-something to 45 or 6. And all of those questions, if you look at our application, when you get to those portions, so all those questions have a point of law that covers it, and that's why we have to ask it. And so when you get to the thing about being a Nazi, you just can't say NA. Just say no. They answer the question no. It's either yes or no. There's no NAs. When you get to some of the questions, like, for instance, there are some about the criminal acts. Have you ever committed a crime? It's not, have you committed a crime in the last 5 years? Have you committed a crime since you talked to your lawyer and he said that wasn't one? It's, have you ever been indicted, fined, arrested, whatever the rest of the question says? Have you ever? So that's what we ask. Have you ever done this? And people say, no. Okay. And then we go on to the next question. And that's all the interview is about. When it's done, if they've passed everything and it looks like they're eligible, then we'll tell them that. You passed, I'm going to approve your application, and then we'll send it on to the supervisor for review, and after that's all done, we're going to get you into a ceremony and make you citizen. And that's the interview. It really is. It's not, well, it is scary. I guess any time you have to go see the government, it's going to be scary. But it's really not too bad. It's mostly just a matter of following back up on the application.
Like I've seen some typing going on, and it seems like our pipe is slowly pushing through our questions. So, and Norma asks, how are accredited representatives scrutinized? What entity approves them?
That's a very good question too. We well, normally any licensed attorney is going to be accepted as an accredited representative, and if they're licensed to practice law, then they're good to go. We do have some lawyers that have problems, and they're published a list. I think it's a nationwide list to show that those attorneys who have been sanctioned and what the circumstance, or not the circumstances, but how long their suspension or whatever their time frame is. For the accredited representatives, I believe they have to apply with the Citizenship and Immigration to be accredited, and those organizations, that's like World Relief, Catholic Charities, Northwest Immigrant Rights Project in the Northwest. I don't know what some of the other states have, but anybody that wants to be accredited, then they have to submit the people, and they have to submit names of the people who are going to be the representatives to us. And I'm not real sure about that process because I don't think they come through us. But if they did come to our office and say, I want to be one, then we would find out the rest of the answer for them. Was there another part of that question?
Not necessarily that question, but I didn't get the answer because I asked the question incorrectly for a previous question. And the question is, what is the difference between being naturalized and becoming a citizen? In other words, you're a naturalized citizen and perhaps, well, anyway, that's the question.
Okay, yeah, I can see the questions better. I'm sorry, when you're naturalized, you're a person who was born outside the United States, pick a country, you immigrated to the United States, and now you are, and you had your family relationship, you got married to somebody, and you're over 18, and now you decide you want to be a citizen, so you apply for naturalization. And so you naturalize. You become a naturalized citizen. Becoming a citizen can happen to people who have two children, or I'm sorry, a child that has two parents who are U.S. citizens and they were born outside the United States, the child was. I have an example, a friend of mine, her parents, her father was military and she was born in Germany. Both of her parents are citizens. So now she's trying to show she's a citizen because all she has is a German birth certificate. She has to get proof of citizenship, so she's going to apply for a certificate through us. And the other people that become citizens is, like I said before, children 17 years of age and under. When their parent becomes a citizen, they become a citizen too. So they didn't naturalize. They acquired citizenship through their parents.
Okay, well, I can see that. Okay, Anna is still typing, but the question hasn't popped up yet. So when it does, okay, Anna says thanks. That was more clear. The other thing, just to follow up on the military, because I happen to have a friend whose grandchild is about to be born in Italy, and they are parents. Both parents are, American citizens. Is there something that they can get at the point of birth that doesn't necessitate going back? In other words, can they do a form? Can they do something born in a naval hospital in Italy? Can they get something that they don't have to do it when they're 18 or something?
Yes. What they need to do is they need to go to the consulate and they need to request to record a birth abroad. And they go, and I imagine they'll take their birth certificate to the consulate or the embassy, and they'll show that I'm a citizen, my wife is a citizen, or the two of us are citizens, our child is born here, we need to report a birth abroad. That is the same as citizenship for them, or a certificate of citizenship. They need to do that before the child turns 18. After the child turns 18, and this is the situation my friend is in, now she has to get certificate of citizenship, or she needs to try and get a passport. Because a passport office should ask you for the same things you need, the same documents we would request to issue the certificate of citizenship.
And I have another question about do vehicle infractions count as crimes? Speeding tickets, things like that?
And no, they don't, and that's not an embarrassing question. That's a very good question. A lot of people think that if they get a lot of speeding tickets or something, that they're ineligible. They are not, as long as they've all been paid for. One traffic violation that can be a sticky one is if you get a DUI. And the only reason that is because sometimes when you get one, you're on probation for a period of time. And so if you're on probation for 2 years or however long it might be, and you apply for citizenship or naturalization and within the time of the probation and it hasn't ended yet, then we can't approve the application because you're still under the court. So all your probation has to be completed before you apply for naturalization. But that's a good question. A lot of people don't apply because of that, and they don't realize that traffic violations don't count.
Okay, do you have to report the DUI when asked?
We probably are all going to, yes, to answer your question, yes you would, because the application is going to ask you, have you ever been arrested, cited, fined, imprisoned, something else, for breaking any law, and basically it's any law anywhere in any country at any time. So yeah, you would have to report it on the application when you applied. If you didn't, when you went in, the first thing after you apply for naturalization, the first appointment you get after that is to come in and get fingerprinted and to get your picture taken, your biometrics for your certificate. So when we get your rap sheet back, if you have one, we're going to know if you've done any of those sorts of things. A DUI is going to be on a rap sheet. And I didn't cover that portion of it, but the security issues are there too. Your name goes through the FBI, and so we check to see if you're on any terrorist watch list, and your fingerprints go through the FBI to see if you have any priors. So if you do, and you say I don't, then you might have a little problem there too, and with regards to your honesty.
Okay, I see more types.
Anything else?
Let's see. Yes. If someone has inaccuracies on their rap sheet, is there an appeal they can go through?
Yes. Well, the easy answer is yes. When they come in, we're going to say, well, the rap sheet says this, and they're going to say, well, this is my situation. So what we're going to ask them to do is to go back to the court and ask for if they committed the offense, let's go from that side of it. If they committed the offense, we're going to ask them, you need to go to the court and get a copy of the court transcripts that shows from the day you walked into the courtroom till today, that shows that the case is closed and what happened in that time frame. If there is a problem with the rap sheet, and every once in a while you get somebody else's stuff on a rap sheet. Doesn't happen very often because fingerprints don't lie too much, but sometimes things happen. We would just tell them, okay, this is what it says, so you need to go back and talk to law enforcement and get it fixed. It's not an issue for us necessarily, because the rap sheet comes from an outside agency. It's not something we generate. So you can tell us your story. Now you got to go tell whoever it is that's making the accusation that they're wrong, so that you can get it fixed.
Okay, and then this next question is, okay, did you read that?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you address that, please? Okay.
So if I was going 70 and 60 and 75 and got a ticket and paid for it, then
so in other words, she thinks it's done. And then you ask, would you have to say yes? In other words, if it's taken care of, do you have to say yes to the question I'm asking? And then she
yes.
goes on. In essence, what I'm trying to ask is, what is the lowest form of crime you have to answer yes to when asked in an interview?
Any. Well, I don't want to put traffic violations in criminal in the same text as criminals, but again, I'm going to go back to the question. The question asks, and I don't have a test or the application in front of me, but it says, have you ever been arrested, cited, fined, indicted, or detained by any law enforcement agency anywhere? So that's pretty inclusive. Have you ever been arrested? Maybe not. Have you ever been cited? You got cited for traffic violation. Have you ever been fined? You got fined for speeding. Have you ever been indicted? Have you ever been detained? We don't usually get too excited about the detained part because that doesn't usually amount to a whole lot. But basically the answer is yes. If you've done anything and you've been stopped by the cops, then you should say yes. And again, if it's not going to be a crime involving it's not going to be a good moral conduct issue because you got stopped by a traffic cop. It's whether or not you're admissible.
Okay, fine. I think that answered it. Thank you.
Okay. Basically, if a cop has stopped you and said something that I think you did something wrong, you need to let us know, and we'll sort it all out at the interview. And most of the time, it's nothing. But I understand what the people are thinking when they come in there because it's like, I wish that had never happened. Well, we kind of do too because it would make things go a lot faster, but it did. So let's just address it and get rid of it and press on to the end to where we say you're approved.
Okay, now I see we have some folks saying some things, and I guess I better check in with my speaker. I noticed you have 38. You have about 10 more slides, and it is because you've been so generous in asking our questions as we have answered them. Do you have time to continue? And if those of you who can continue with us, please do. And just for those of you who have to get on the desk at 10 or have to leave for some reason because we said an hour, we will continue to archive this. If Ken can continue, first off, can you continue?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
And I was going to say too, Carolyn, if you have my email address,
yes,
feel free to give that to anybody out there that has a question that can't stay, or any other questions or concerns. I know some people don't want to talk about it in such a wide form. If you have a question and you want to ask, Carolyn will give you my email address. I'll be happy to help you.
Okay, and then Karen has some really good information here. She says, most states have a judiciary case search engine that cites all, excuse me, things are coming here. Okay, that cites, sorry, I've got to click down here.
I see that, and yes, they do. Washington does, in fact, and it's pretty handy. Sometimes it doesn't say a lot because of privacy issues, but you can check that too. And you can just go to the court and you can just ask them, could you give me a list of all my offenses? They'll run a name check, a name and date of birth check, and they'll come back with whatever they find, and they'll let you have it.
Okay, and like I say, this will be up. Jeremy's usually quite good about getting the archived information up. If not today, in the afternoon, it'll be up by tomorrow. So those of you who need to leave, you can go back and finish the session. So, okay, let's continue.
The rest of the presentation is largely around fraud and how to contact us. We bring the fraud issue up for a lot of people for different reasons, but the biggest thing is that there are a lot of unscrupulous people out there who are taking people's money and not giving them anything. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time with that here, but just to let you know that if somebody's applying for something and they're our system can be cumbersome and difficult to deal with, and so they look for help. And they just need to make sure that the help that they get is somebody that's going to help them and not take their money and not give them anything at all. Nobody can promise you anything. I can't promise you anything. If you came to our window, all I could say is we need to get all the information and see what we can do. I can't promise a thing. So anybody that says that they can, you need to find somebody else to help you. Attorneys not licensed to practice are not going to do you any good, and those that aren't accredited with us, they're not going to be able to do you any good either. And you got to be careful of misleading websites. And our website ends in .gov. This is a website that ends in .com. If you go to uscis.com, this is where you go. It's very impressive, red, white, and blue. We can help you. And what they do is they charge you a lot of money for a piece of paper. They'll send you forms. They won't even fill them out for you, and they'll charge you a lot of money for them. So you have to be aware. I got a question.
Okay, all right.
Directing to the
Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so this person, do look at what has just been typed. It looks pretty good. I think that that's a good way, and it's good that we have it in our chat. This is recorded, and the chat will be able to have you go back and access it. Okay.
Okay, so when you get to this, don't go to this website. I don't have a picture of our website. I wish I did, but I'm going to have to put that in here. Anyway, be careful. .gov is where you want to go. This is more about fraud, and I'm not going to spend your time on that. More fraud. If you check our website, this is our website address. You can get everything that you need from here. If you want a form, go there. There's a link on the top that says Forms. Find the one you're looking for. It'll tell you how much it costs, where to send it, download it, fill it in, type it up, and you're good to go.
Excuse me, Ken.
If you wish to report any fraud, sure.
I was going to say, if you wanted to show your website, we can do a really fast web tour. It takes about 30 seconds to show it.
Why don't we do that at the very end? Let him go through his slides, and let's do that at the very end. We can pull it up.
Okay. To get a hold of us, call us on the phone, come into one of our windows at one of our offices, or use the website. The website's the easiest way, and there's a lot of information there. If you really want to talk to somebody, you can come in and see us. The toll-free number, there's the number. You're going to get a contractor on the other end, and most of the time they do pretty good work, and they can answer your questions. They may send you forms. There's a website that they'll send you a form if you want to. But the website is a good way of getting a hold of us. Come in person. You need to make an InfoPass appointment. That's on our website. Click on find the link, and then it'll let you make an appointment, and you'll know exactly when, the day, and the time that you're going to come in to see us, and we'll be there for you. And you can there are 12 different languages you can make those appointments in, so it makes it a little easier for the applicant. And then you can go online. I already talked about that. You can go to uscis.gov, download the forms, check your status of pending applications. It won't check the status of all applications. It depends on where it is, and so it might. You can try it and see. If we have the application, the website's not going to be able to see those things and won't be able to help you. But then you would have to come and see us anyway. And then the processing times are tracked to the service centers, and that's available on the website too. They follow the links, and it'll tell you what the status of a particular application, how long it's taking for that application to get through the system. And then here are some forms that can be filed online. This one, the I-90, is one that you might see in the library. For a while, we were using you as a resource. I don't know how right or wrong that was, but what we got was people would come into our office on a Friday afternoon and say, I'm going on a cruise tomorrow and my green card's expired, and what can I do to get this right? And so what we would do is we would say, go, because they're in town and maybe they came from far away, we would say, go to the library, use their computer, go online to our website, apply for the application online with your credit card. Come back with your receipt, and we can fingerprint you, we'll give you an extension, and you can have a happy cruise. And so that's what we were doing. The other ones can be done there too, but most of them are not as urgent as the I-90 application trying to get their green card renewed. But usually what they do is it expires, and then they say, well, I need it right now, and so this is the quickest way to get some sort of an extension for them. And that's the end of the presentation. We've taken you from being somebody to come to visit the United States to now I want to get a green card. I got my green card, now I want to be a citizen. Once you get your citizenship, we're done with you, except for now you're eligible to apply for so many other people. We talked about who a citizen can apply for. Once they become citizens, they start applying for all those people. And I need to say one other thing about petitions and applications, and that is that if you have somebody that comes in, or you know a friend or anybody in a situation where they're eligible to file a petition for somebody, they need to file that petition as soon as they're able, because if they don't, they're wasting time. And in the meantime, things change, laws change, and it's just everybody's benefit to do it as soon as you can.
Jeremy, do you want to pull up that website? So it looks like Jeremy's going right now. Here we go. There it is.
Excellent.
So that's what it looks like. Do you have any comments that you want to talk to about this, Ken?
Not too many. It pretty much speaks for itself. If you have a receipt, say you put in a petition and you file an I-130, which is the petition number for your family member, and you've applied and it's been a month or two and you haven't heard anything, you type the number in there, hits check status, and it gives you an idea of what's going on with that application or petition. Here you can take the naturalization self-test. That's the one I was talking about. And then this pretty much, I don't know if you can see. Can you see the pointer?
You can't see the pointer on the web tour, unfortunately.
Okay. In the middle is the green card, permanent resident, citizenship. It pretty much covers all the categories of things that people are doing or would want to do. How do you become a citizen? How do you get a green card? How do you work? And what do we get down here? Adoptions, humanitarian. So there you can find out about adopting and any of the other humanitarian programs we have. And then we have some special programs for the military too. So that comes in handy for a lot of folks. And that's pretty much it.
Well, thank you very much. As you can tell, there was a lot of interest from a lot of different places. And again, thank you for being willing to share with us. This will be archived. It'll be up. We're having a few computer issues here. But I'd also like to say thank you to the Spokane Public Library, because that is where Ken is doing his presentation, because Homeland Security made his computer so secure that we couldn't get in.
Couldn't break in.
So I have to thank so I have to say thank you to the Spokane Public Library for facilitating this program that he's using. He's at the Spokane Public Library, if I'm not mistaken. So thank you for that. And then I just wanted to give you a heads up before we sign off that we are going to have next month is going to be on cultivating teen book clubs at your library. If you attend, you will learn how to develop new teen book clubs or reinvigorate your existing ones, and you're going to do this with a bunch. Matt works on our staff, and he comes to us from a youth services background. And he's doing reference now, virtual reference now, but he's multi-talented, and so he's going to give us a good idea of how you can reinvigorate a book club. So that's what next month is going to be. And so, Ken, any last words?
Thank you for having me, and again, if anybody has any questions, Carolyn can give you my email address, and I'll be happy to take care of you as best I can.
Well, thanks again.
Thanks,
we really
Carolyn.
Appreciate it, and we hope to see many of you next week. Thank you. Next week. Let's try next month. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, everyone, for showing up.
Thanks for all your help, Jeremy.
Oh, it was my pleasure, and it really